So I'm here with Invicta Interim Featherweight Champion Megan Anderson. She so graciously invited us here to her gym, and we can't wait to get some good stuff from what's been going on ever since we saw you in January. How's it been going?
It's been going good. A lot of stuff has happened.
Okay.
I've kind of, I guess, blown up a little bit on social media and stuff like that, which is still really weird for me to get used to. But I'm just training. I went up to Colorado to train. I went to my first UFC fight on UFC 209, so that was really exciting. But it's been pretty busy. 2 months.
When did you go? You know, I'm from Colorado.
I did not know that.
Yeah. When were you in Colorado?
I was there. I think I came back Tuesday last week. So I was there from the 5th to the 12th.
Okay. Who were you training?
Yeah, I was training out at Factory X Muay Thai with Mark Montoya out there.
The Kalah brothers?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, next time you're there, you're going to have to be like, hey, I'm here. Let's go grab lunch or something.
Definitely.
Okay, cool. So you've been traveling, you've been blowing up on social media. Yeah. What else?
Just training, really.
Okay.
I probably took like a week off after my fight just to rest, and my family was here, so I was able to spend some time with them. But since then, I've just been training, and it's a really good because I don't have a fight booked, so it's a really good time for me because I can learn a lot of new things. I can add a lot of things to my arsenal.
Right.
I can try different styles, see if I like it, see if I don't, test them out in training and when we're sparring and stuff like that. So I really like it, and going away and training is really good. It gives me a fresh perspective, new training partners, just a different style. So I like learning from other people and adding new things, and I think this is a really good time for me to be able to grow.
That's awesome. Okay, so there's you hit on some things I'm going to touch on. But first, for the fighters and for fans who don't really know you yet, because you said you got a lot of new people who are starting to jump on the bandwagon, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit, because you're not from the U.S. Where are you from?
No, I'm from a little place called the Gold Coast.
Okay. I've been to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, in Australia. So it's an hour's flight north of Sydney. So most people know Sydney from the Nemo movies. But I'm from the Gold Coast. I grew up there. I moved here September of 2015, and I've lived here in Kansas City ever since.
Okay, all right. Gold Coast, what is that? That's in Queensland, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep. It's kind of like the South Beach of I've been there before. It's kind of got that South Beach feel.
Yeah, I'm gonna it's kind of what I think the Gold Coast is kind of California, the beaches and stuff like that. It's pretty much the whole way up from the Gold Coast up to the far north Queensland is all beach.
Okay.
So we're really well known for our beaches and tourism.
Yeah.
We have Surfers Paradise, which is kind of the very, very smaller version of Las Vegas.
Okay.
It's not as big, but it's kind of the nightlife, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of tourists go there, and a lot of people move to the Gold Coast to live because it's such a nice place. It does not get cold at all.
That's so funny. Cool. Well, next time if you're ever out there and I'm out there, you have to show me the best spots.
Yes.
Awesome.
I will.
Cool. Well, okay, so catch me up. You're from Australia. What brought you to the US?
I came here for fighting. So I came over in September of 2015 for my Invicta debut, which I obviously lost. And I was offered to stay here and train full time, and I kind of was just okay. I talked to my parents about it and stuff like that. It was a big decision, and it's particularly because I didn't really get to say goodbye properly to my friends and family because I wasn't intending on staying here after my fight. Gotcha. But yeah, I I think I would have regretted it if I didn't take this opportunity, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah. And so, you know, a lot of fighters, you know, especially outside of the bigger organizations, take up part-time jobs or anything like that. Have you had to do anything like that to support yourself?
Luckily, last year I was Invicta kept me pretty active.
Okay.
I help out the gym, so I don't really have to I don't have to pay a membership, which is good. But I help out a lot. I teach classes and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they've supported me a lot, and I cannot thank them enough for, you know, believing in me, even though I lost.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've gone undefeated since.
It's amazing.
So, you know, it's a well-oiled team that we have. We get on really well. And I consider James like a brother. So I think it's really good that we have that good connection between, you know, fighter and coach. But, you know, it's been tough, and it still is really tough. We don't really, you know, Invicta doesn't get paid as much as the UFC does.
Right.
So it does make it really hard to make a living. So it's tough, but I'm getting through it.
Yeah. It's kind of that, you know, rocky, you know, struggling until you make it, you know. There's definitely that element.
Definitely. And that's the thing, I might be the Invicta Interim belt, but I'm still struggling like everybody else. I'm living in a foreign country, I'm away from my family, and I'm not making, you know, as much as what, you know, Chris Cyborg was making, because her contract was with the UFC.
Right.
So it's very different, and, you know, we're all struggling in our own ways, and but we're all making it happen. You know, we're living the dream.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so last time I was with you guys in January, I spoke to Shannon Knapp.
Yep.
And I asked her, you know, I said, hey, Shannon, you know, there's been a theme of interim titles in 2016. And she looked at me a little funny. But, you know, she did say that Chris Cyborg is a UFC fighter now. So how does that work? You have the interim title, Cyborg's in the UFC.
Yeah.
How does that work out?
This has been a very common question lately, just because for that reason, it's very confusing, it's very undefined. I think Invicta needs to come out and clarify a few things and make a statement, but from my understanding is Chris is no longer with Invicta, and Dana White has said in multiple interviews now that, you know, Chris will not be coming back to Invicta. She's fighting in the UFC. That's the end of story. So
they created a division for her.
Yeah, they created a division for her. Why would they let her come back?
Right.
It just makes no sense.
Right.
So from my understanding is she's not coming back. Then, you know, the question is, no other champion that's gone up has been able to retain that belt. Look at Angela Hill. She just went up and she lost her belt. Well, she didn't lose it. She had to give it up because she's no longer with Invicta. She's signed with the UFC. You know, why? You know, it just doesn't make sense. If Chris is no longer in Invicta, then she can't hold the belt.
Right. Okay. So that's your stance on it.
That's my stance. If she's coming back, I completely understand the need for an interim, but I think we've all known for a very long time she's not. Ever since she had her debut in UFC, it makes no sense that the UFC would pay her contract when she's bringing so many numbers and notoriety to the division in the UFC. Why would they let her go to a smaller organization and could potentially get injured or something like that? You know, it's
plus that's where
it just
she
makes
wants
no
to
sense.
Be. Yeah.
I know she's wanted for a long time to be in the UFC. She's there now. Why would she go back? It makes no sense.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so kind of making a statement. Hey, let's settle this, and so that I don't introduce you next time as the interim Invicta, you know, featherweight title.
That's the thing. It's the making it an interim, even though Chris isn't coming back. I understand why they might have done it, but it's also like the criticism that I've got, it makes it worse. You know,
What criticism?
I'm a paper champ. I didn't beat Cyborg, so I'm not a champ. I'm like, she's no longer in my organization,
right?
And I have not been offered a contract to the organization she's in. Like, how can we fight? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And the UFC has never allowed fighters to go back and forth between the UFC and Invicta. From my understanding, what they've done is they've signed them on a contract to the UFC, and then if they no longer want them, they will re-sign them a contract under Invicta.
Okay.
So they never allow them. Like Angela Hill, she was signed with Invicta, with the UFC. They cut her. She was picked up by Invicta under a contract. Then she was signed under a different contract for the UFC.
Right.
Like, they don't allow them to go back and forth. It's never been that way, and a lot of fans think it has, but it never has been. Shannon and Dana have a very good working relationship, and she allows us to go up if the opportunity is there. And you know, if we have a contract, she's said that she would never, you know, prohibit us from that opportunity. And that's why that's why Invicta is there. It feeds girls up. Look at the strawweight division. They took the top 8.
Yeah.
They bought all the contracts and took them up.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. But the UFC has never allowed a fighter to go back and forth between the two.
Right.
It's always contractually. They're obligated to one or the other.
Right. And so as of now, has the UFC shared interest in signing you over to their new featherweight division?
No.
There's a smile there.
They haven't.
Okay.
We have approached Sean Shelby, and from my understanding is that they're not doing anything with the featherweight division at the moment.
Okay. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that, you know, and obviously, you know.
From my understanding is this division was created for Chris.
Right.
Rightly so. You know, she's the most dominant featherweight that the sport has ever had.
Right.
And I think they're figuring things out with her and that situation, and booking her, trying to book her a fight, or just figuring that situation out, and then they're going to start, you know, building from there.
Right.
But until they figure that out, it's kind of like everything's on hold.
It's a pending transaction.
Yeah.
They're trying to make sure, they want to ensure that the division has a future.
Yeah.
With Cyborg in it.
Exactly.
Before they start investing.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, when fans of MMA, and not just the UFC, who know of like Invicta and Bellator and all that kind of thing, they know that featherweights, there's more than just Chris Cyborg. But the majority of UFC fans, when they think of featherweights, they think of Chris Cyborg because of Ronda Rousey. And so right now she is the face of the 145-pound division in the UFC. But that's the thing, like, she might be that now, but you build people up. Look at Paige Van Zandt.
Exactly.
She's not, you know, the champion of the strawweight division, but she's a huge star for her division.
Yeah. Because
they've marketed her well, and she's built herself up, and you know, that's the thing. Like, when you make a division so small, you can do that. And that's the thing. They just need to back it 100% and just go for it.
Definitely. And you have that personality. I was telling Josh this on the way here. I was like, Megan Anderson, I'm so glad she called, you know, Sean Shelby and Dana White out, and, you know, made all their statements that you did at Invicta, what was it, 21?
Yeah.
Because that is, in this new age and new era of MMA, it may not be equal parts. It might be more entertainment than it is sport at this point. And so
I agree.
That's how you get yourself signed. That's how Mickey Gall got the
exactly.
CM Punk fight.
Exactly.
And the Sage Northcutt fight.
Yeah.
And then called out Dan Hardy. So
that was an interesting one.
We were all like, okay.
But he's smart though. Like, he's picking good fights. He's picking the fights that work for him, that's going to progress him up the ladder. And I feel like the Conor McGregor era has begun in MMA. The fact that people feel like they have to call people out. They have to say something, provocative or something like. I feel like people feel the need that they have to call people out all the time now. When I get that, and you need to build a fight, but I feel like people take it too far. And particularly the fans get on the wagon and they just like, oh, you're scared or that kind of stuff. I'm like, they just don't really understand how it works behind the scenes. Like I could call someone out, that's fine, but if no contract is ever offered for that fight, then there's nothing you can do. Like the fans can want a certain fight to happen, but if you're not offered a contract, like there's not much you can do. And I'm getting a lot of that at the moment with Chris Cyborg and her calling me out and stuff like that, and that's fine, and it's very flattering that she's calling me out, but she's in the UFC. I'm an Invicta, and they're not offering me a contract, so there's nothing anyone can do about that. So,
but the good thing is, the interesting thing, similar to Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw, right? Like he calls him out after the press conference, and TJ Dillashaw, his response is, "Thank you, thank you for putting me in your line, in your line of fire," because then that does draw the audience, and that does draw people's attention to wanting to see that fight.
And I think what works there is there's a lot of history. I think that. I think the build up to this fight is going to be very interesting, because they both know things about the other because they were training partners, and I think it's going to get nasty. And I'm a little worried about that, but because if they make it too personal, it kind of detracts from the sport. It becomes too much entertainment, and as entertaining as it is, like no one wants to see someone get blasted like that all over social media. Like people forget that there is a person behind the computer, reading all the comments or seeing all the negative things that people say, and it can be hurtful sometimes. Like you learn to get used to it and to ignore it, but if it's coming from someone that you respect or you trusted at one point in your career, like that's gotta hurt. And so I can only imagine like the shit that TJ is gonna get, and I hope that he doesn't get to him, and there are people on his side, they parted ways, it shouldn't be nasty, like they parted cordially, but it's the entertainment industry now. It's not just a fight anymore.
Making it so good because I'm terrible. Like I feed into it. I'm a total fan. I'm like, oh, he just said this against so and so, and so it's like I'm totally I do love the entertainment aspect of the fight, but I'm so glad that you bring to light that there are that it is hurtful. Especially if the things that are brought up are personal, and if especially with the whole Team Alpha Male and then going to Elevation Fight Team, there was the brotherhood there. So when people attack your character and they attack your integrity,
but that's the thing though, like people grow, and maybe for TJ, he outgrew that gym, and he needed something different. It's not to say that he wasn't thankful for them whilst he was there, and it wasn't to say that like he didn't still want to be friends and stuff like, well, who knows? That might be the case, I don't know, but people do things for a reason. If he felt that he needed to make that move for his own personal career, then you can't hate on him for that. You can't hold that against him. We've all done it at some point. The person that I am today isn't the person I was 5 years ago.
Exactly.
We all grow, and we all have to move through situations like that. We leave jobs, we get new jobs, we leave relationships, we have new relationships. We're constantly evolving, and we move on in different ways.
Definitely.
So it's definitely more than just a fight.
Definitely. Yeah.
There's so much more behind the scenes that goes on.
And ultimately, this is an individual sport.
Exactly.
When ultimately, yes, we're teammates, but we're co-workers in a sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, my career is independent of yours and vice versa. So each fighter has to do what's best for themselves.
Exactly. And that's the thing, you can't hate on someone for doing something that puts their career first. Like, you might not agree with it, but you don't have to agree with it. Like, their decision doesn't involve you. You need to make decisions for you that benefit your career.
Right.
So, you know, that's where I think a lot of people, like, get jealous and stuff like that. And jealousy is a part of human nature. But people shouldn't, because they're doing something that's going to benefit them. Like, how should that affect you? Like, if you just do what's best for you, then it shouldn't matter what they do.
Right. So what's best for your career next? Because we waited. It was your birthday. UFC 208 was on your birthday in Brooklyn. We were trying to get you to get out there. UFC didn't take the bait as much, but what's next for your career?
I think right now, defending my belt in Invicta, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So what do you see going on? I mean, it's March 2017. What are your goals for the year?
I want to fight at least 3 times this year.
Okay.
It doesn't really bother me what organization like I fight in. If I end up in the UFC, that's fine. I'm happy to stay in Invicta. You know, Shannon takes care of us, and she keeps us active. I guess I might not be able to be as active as I was last year, just because, finding competition. But that's fine. I would like to at least fight 3 times. Obviously keep my belt.
Right.
And if the opportunity comes up to move up to the UFC, but we don't know what's going on with that right now. So we're not going to wait on them. Like, I want to stay active, and I want to keep fighting. I want to keep improving, and the way to do that is to fight. And, I'm gonna take the organization that's going to get me in the cage the quickest.
Yeah.
So
definitely awesome. Well, thank you so much, Megan. It's been a pleasure. We'll definitely have to do this again.
Yes.
It's been really exciting to hear about what's been going on with you. Anything else that we need to know about?
No, not really.
What's your social media?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay.
My Facebook is Megan Anderson MMA, and my Instagram and Twitter is Megan_A_MMA.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, we'll hopefully see you on Saturday at Invicta 22.
Yes, I'll hopefully be there.
All right, awesome.